Boy, oh boy. This video is brought to you by the Officer Tatum Store. The Officer Tatum Store. Get the merch link in the description section. Like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you get notifications anytime I go live or make a video. Make sure you still subscribe to my channel. Hit that join button so you can join the Tatum Squad. Like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Let's get into this. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're on the store and we run out of stock, just hit that button that says notify me when we restocked, and we'll take care of you. Anyway, let's get to this George Floyd thing. So there's updates in the George Floyd case, and I'm interested in this case because as a former police officer, I'm interested in seeing how this will play out. We all know that the public has already made a decision and they're going to riot no matter what. If Chauvin is convicted of everything and does life in prison, they're going to riot and protest, and somebody's going to break in a department store to steal some J's. We just know how this goes. And if he's acquitted, they will riot. If he's convicted of lesser included charges, they're going to riot. So it's a riot no matter what. However, I want to keep you guys apprised of what I think is going on in this trial and how it's going to lead to a conviction or acquittal. Now, I want to go through the charges real quick because I think it's invaluable to understand what charges he's up against and read the statute so you can know exactly what the jurors are going to have to make a decision on. They're not making a decision whether or not Chauvin was an idiot. He's guilty. They're not going to make a decision whether or not Chauvin had his knee on his neck or his back. That's not where the decision is made. The decision is made in the statute. So what charges are they going to be able to convict him of? Because being stupid is not against the law. Now, if it contributes to somebody's death, it is. Now, let's talk about this. Let's go over a couple of these laws. So Chauvin is being charged with second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. So those are the charges. We're going to go over each charge real quick, and I'm going to read the statute to you so you can see exactly what the statutory obligations are, and then we're going to go through what I think is the uphill battle for Chauvin, and do I think he's going to be convicted at this point. All right, let's go to the first charge, murder in the second degree. Many people think murder in the second degree is intentional murder. In many states, it is intentional murder. Murder in the first degree is intentional murder with premeditation. But they have a subsection 2. As you can see right here, there's a subsection there that says unintentional murder. So this is the subsection that Chauvin is being charged under. And the person that does this and found guilty can be in prison for 40 years. Now, the second subsection, number 1, is pretty much what they're going to convict him on, or what they're going to charge him with that's most appropriate to what he's done. The second section has nothing to do with what Chauvin did. So it reads in the first section, causing the death of a human being without intent to affect the death of another person while committing or attempting to commit a felony offense other than criminal sexual conduct in the first or second degree with force or violence or a drive-by shooting. So committing a felony. So they are going to have to determine, did Chauvin commit a felony crime that was a felony crime that then unintentionally caused the death of George Floyd. At this point, I think that is incredibly difficult to prove that Chauvin committed an actual crime. Not saying that they won't come out with that, but it's incredibly difficult to say that he committed a felony crime which led to the death of George Floyd. Now let's go to the next one. Murder in the third degree is something that they reinstated murder in the third degree. And so we're going to read through it. This subsection A is where this is most applicable. So it says, whosoever without intent to affect the death of another person causes the death of another by perpetrating an act eminently dangerous to others or evincing a deprived mind without regard for human life is guilty of murder in the third degree. So they are going to have to prove that what he did was perpetuated an act of imminent danger, meaning that the knee on the neck had to be of imminent danger to another person, or him having or displaying what they call a deprived mind without regard of human life. So that means that, to me, the video looks like he's guilty of this statute. But once he take the stand and they talk to experts and he articulate what he was doing with his knee, that can throw away this idea that he was depraved in his mind, idea that he created imminent danger, given the fact that George Floyd was on methamphetamine and fentanyl, and without regard for life. So they're going to have to prove that he really didn't care about his life and he let him die without any suggestion of help. Now, if EMT was never called, George Floyd dies, he is 100% guilty of this statute. If they can at least prove that he got on the radio to call for EMS assistance, which they are the medical professionals, to deal with George Floyd, then it's going to be very difficult to determine that he was without regard for human life and that he had a depraved mind. And then what they're going to have to do is find a case that this is similar to, where an officer is acting within his duty and with a depraved mind ended up murdering somebody. I think Minnesota had another situation like this, but I don't think it's applicable. So, and then the last charge is manslaughter in the second degree. So subsection, I think 1 is going to be where they're going to get Chauvin on. So manslaughter in the second degree, a person, and by, it says by the person's culpable negligence. That means conscious responsibility, culpable negligence, whereby the person creates an unreasonable risk and consciously takes chances of causing death or great bodily harm to another person. Now, this seems very compelling to me, in my personal opinion, and they could possibly get him on this one, which only would yield 10 years in prison. And y'all know people ain't going for that. But let's give a quick synopsis about this particular, unreasonable risk. They are going to have to determine that what Chauvin did was unreasonable, which I think is very compelling at this point. I think what he did was unreasonable. But here's the part, and consciously taking chances that cause the death or great bodily harm to a person. So in this subsection, unreasonable, I think is reasonable to understand, but to consciously take chances that will cause the death of somebody. So that means that what you're doing could cause the death of somebody. Now, people will argue that having a knee on somebody's neck for 9 minutes is a conscious effort in knowing that you're substantially damaging them or whatever the case may be. However, it's going to be the testimony of his own merit that could save his life on this one. But I think this statute is probably more compelling than others. There is a possibility that he could get off of these charges and not be charged with anything. If they cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt, it's not, can you prove it? It has to be beyond reasonable doubt. If any one juror hears the testimony of an expert that talks about methamphetamine and fentanyl ingestion, and they say, no, George Floyd was actually dying here. And even if Chauvin was never there and they never used force against him, by the time the medical personnel got to the scene, George Floyd would have already died from the fentanyl or methamphetamine. If someone can prove that, if they can't prove it, Chauvin is going to prison. If somebody can prove that George Floyd was going to die no matter what, from the time he ingested the drugs to the time the medical staff got there, which the notification of the medical staff was deemed reasonable, meaning that the officers acted quickly in notifying to have medical staff respond. If that is reasonable, yet the medical staff responded at X and he was going to die from methamphetamine and fentanyl and his underlying conditions, no matter what they did, no matter if they did chest compressions, no matter if it was a lack of oxygen, if no factor of, other than Narcan, and which is a chemical that you shoot in the nose and it revives people that are on a nod or from an opioid. But if they determine that anything out of that or from that would have not saved his life, then Chauvin cannot be held responsible for the death, even though his actions were dumb. If it did not cause or it did not contribute to his death, then that's going to be what gets Chauvin off. So the reason why I'm saying these things is because I want you guys to have a full spectrum of what's going on. So when things occur in this case, nobody's shocked. that nobody's shocked and caught off guard and wondering what happened and why he got charged or why he didn't get charged. I'm trying to explain this as a former police officer, and I'm not an attorney, but I dealt with attorneys before. I read the law just like attorneys read the law, and I have to be able to defend my decision making against attorneys in the court of law. So people may not think police officers are. I would say this, and I'm just one police officer that did 6.5 years on a police department in a city that was incredibly busy. I wrote thousands of cases. I made hundreds of arrests. I was in high-speed pursuits. I was on a SWAT team. I did everything. I was a public information officer, so I was the spokesperson of the police department, one of 3, and I had access to all of the records. I knew everybody that got fired. I knew why they got fired. I knew all of the investigations that were pertinent to the police department in a significant way. I worked directly with the chief or directly under the chief and all the command staff. So I know exactly what's going on the police department. And with my experience, I personally believe that police officers, especially reasonable or even you would consider good police officers, are better at interpreting the law than many lawyers are. Why do you say that, Mr. Tatum? It's because lawyers don't have to put these laws into practice. They're not actually enforcing these laws and being able to deal with these laws 1,000 times in a row. We arrest many people that never go to court because they plead guilty or they throw it out. The lawyers don't have to defend anything. There's no prosecutional defense, which I probably just made that word up. But police officers have to have probable cause to make these arrests, and they have to be able to justify, because you don't want to unlawfully arrest somebody or illegally arrest somebody. So our arrests and the things that we arrest people for are consistently played out. And not only do we know the law to arrest somebody, not only do we know the culpable mental state or we know the elements of crimes that fit this statute, we have to not only practice it every day 100 times a week or more, we have to be able to write in a case report describing our behaviors and also justifying based on the probable cause threshold of why we were led to that conclusion. So I have written thousands of cases. Imagine a police officer that was on the department for 20 years. They've probably written 30, 40,000 cases, especially if you're in a busy, if you're in a busy police department or police agency and you are in patrol and you don't take a lot of vacation time and all the other stuff. You are writing thousands and thousands and thousands. You're going to court thousands of times. You are doing defense attorney interviews, because what people may not understand is the defense attorney and prosecution, they interview police officers on these cases. So if I'm in a case police officer, a defense attorney will call me in their office. I will go downtown to the defense attorney's office and I will meet with them. Sometimes it's telephonic, but sometimes it's in person. I will meet with them. They will go over certain questions that they have for me before the trial. So I know exactly what the defense is going to ask me before a trial. And I know what the prosecution is going to ask before a trial within reason. Sometimes they'll throw a curveball at you, but for the most part, you kind of know where they're coming from and they know where you're coming from and they know what your case report says and they kind of know where they're going to get you at if they got something to get you on. So I just want people to understand this. So when I'm giving an explanation, I'm not saying I'm 100% correct. I'm just giving it from a perspective of experience. And when I look at these statutes, and I have been 100% right on all of these cases, and I'm not sure if Chauvin will get convicted. I'm just giving the facts as they roll out. And when things roll out a little bit more in the future, we will know, we will have a better synopsis of what's going to happen. And I think there's a possibility that Chauvin can get off on this, although I don't think that they will do it. And I think that they are willing to break the law and give Chauvin an unfair trial than to have him be acquitted. I can guarantee it. Even if the statute don't fit, what juror is going to be the one that caused Chauvin to get off? What juror? When this is the biggest story across the country, they paid the family of George Floyd $27 million or so before the trial, And to act like jurors are not aware of any of this stuff is asinine to me. And so, of course, they're going to get George Floyd. They're going to believe that George Floyd was wronged. They cannot look at this as innocent until proven guilty. And I personally don't think any of the jurors are impartial at this point, even if they talk a good game, because I can go to a jury and I can say, no, I'll be impartial. I don't even know what's really going on at George Floyd. I mean, of course, I can't because I make videos about it. But if you're a person that wasn't on social media, but you made plenty of opinions about it to family members and stuff, you can get up there and just tell them, no, I wouldn't recommend it. It's against the law to lie. But you could say, no, I'll be impartial. I don't even really know much about this. I never followed the case. And you can get in there and do whatever you want to do once you're a juror. Now, the problem is if they find this stuff out, it become a mistrial or something like that, they have to retry the case. There's a possibility that Chauvin can get the case retried even if he's found guilty, because it's incredibly biased. I don't care who you are. Like, this was the biggest case in American history. George Floyd had like 10 funerals and he floated in the gold. He being buried in a golden casket. Black Lives Matter raised billions of dollars on this stuff. They're changing the curriculum of school systems now. They're defunding the police because of this. And you telling me people don't know what's going on and it's just this hidden thing? I think not. So anyway, I love you guys. This is not a video that I think is going to go viral or nothing like that. I just want the people that follow me to be informed and be updated on what's going on. And I make more videos to talk about some new developments, but I want people to just understand kind of where the law is as we proceed forward in this case. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Join the Tatum Squad. Visit the Tatum store. Y'all know what it is. See you on the next one. I'm out.